Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Double Stuff Podcast. We're double the hosts, double the topics, and double the fun. I'm Charity.
I'm Alan.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Dan.
And we are starting off season 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
Woo.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
It's a good number. I
The
love
Ocho.
number 8 because it looks like a snowman.
And that's what we're going to call it for the next 10 weeks.
So for season 8, we're going to take a back to school sort of educational theme because we're in fall semester now.
Mm-hmm.
Kiddies, and I guess not just the kiddies, but college students, everyone's going back to school. So aside from this episode, which could be educational, we're talking about useless knowledge today. We'll get more educational later, but I
I'm
really
full of
like,
that.
I really like this topic. You are full of it, Alan.
Yes, it is.
I really like this topic because normally when I'm moderating a podcast, I have a little, notes and stuff that I like to go off of. And most of it's just fun facts and useless knowledge. So this is sort of right up my alley. Don't say anything, Sarah, because I know you have a dad joke just in your pocket waiting to come
I
out.
wasn't going to say it.
Yeah, sure you were. But I love useless knowledge because I always imagine myself on a game show winning like the $1 million question from something totally random that I just happen to know. Does anyone else have that fantasy, or is it just me?
I won, or my mom won a bike because of my useless knowledge.
Really?
Yeah, when I
was
was
this like a radio contest or something?
Yeah, it was
Okay,
radio.
share the story. And now my curiosity is.
The question was,
piqued.
what's the most popular name in the world? Mm-hmm. She was making breakfast or something, and I said Muhammad. And she said, is that right? And I was like, yeah, it's the most popular name in the world. And I don't know, I would have been, 4th, 5th grade or something like that.
How'd you know that?
I'm
Just-
full of useless knowledge. And she called up the station and won a bike.
Nice.
Did you get to ride the bike, or did she take
No, I
it
was
like,
a
look
kid.
what I won?
It was like a 10-speed. I was only like this big.
I could have grew into it.
My son got me a bike. Brings tears
I'm
to my eyes.
thinking that I was really young. She's probably like, Alan, you were like 16 years old.
Like, Alan, that happened yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
But anyway,
Well, no, I was thinking, okay, I
thanks
don't
for
really.
that. That put a smile on her face.
Yeah.
I don't know how many modern game shows there are. Like, I mean, I know Jeopardy's still going. That's still kind of old or whatever. I was thinking, remember The Weakest Link?
Yeah.
Because that was like the ultimate of useless knowledge.
They
'Cause
brought
those
that back.
questions, yeah, did they?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I haven't watched the new one. I
So
just
Jane
remember
Lynch.
that. Oh yeah, they did.
I can
I was
see
just
her
thinking,
doing
what's
that.
the other lady's name that used to host it?
I don't know.
Nobody
I don't-
knows that.
I don't remember. I used to know.
I did too, because they named an android after her name was Anne. I think they named an android
So
after
that's a
her
piece of
in
useless knowledge that we
Doctor
don't
Who.
have. Yeah, okay.
No, there was like a Weakest Link episode. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Well, I was thinking there's that, there's Jeopardy, there's The Chase. That's one that I used to watch.
That's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, so that's sort of what I think of when I think of useless knowledge. I'm thinking of like, oh, I could win $100,000 or something. But I always wonder who came up like with the fun facts that you hear. Like, is there some sort of group doing scientific experiments or whatever? I don't know. I always just think like, who's coming up with this stuff? Who's wondering the length of a whale's heart or something? I don't know. I just wonder who comes up with
I wonder
that
that
stuff.
too. I feel like they almost have to have like a book or something.
There's tons of books on it, websites. And, yeah.
They just like go through and like, just flip to the random page and be like, we're going to go with that. But like Jeopardy, they always have to have like a category with
Yeah.
like multiple questions. So they have to come up with a theme and then
Yeah.
ask questions based on that, or answers, I guess.
I don't know if I'm smart enough for that show. I think when I imagine myself as a useless knowledge winner, it's never been on Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay at Jeopardy when I'm playing at home, and
love Jeopardy.
it's not
At
because
home,
I
you're a
know.
genius at
That's
home.
right.
Yeah.
It's not because I know a lot of the answers. It's context clues. Like a lot of the stuff they give you is either in
Yeah.
the name of the category or in the question itself,
Right.
and you can kind of like make a really good educated guess based on
Answers
the.
that
But you have to
start
be
with
smart
L.
enough to give the correct educated
Yeah.
guess.
Well, that's true, and that is true.
Yeah.
See, I think with useless, I mean, we call it useless information. I think it's all important. It's just kind of like what Cherry was saying. It's all in the context.
you got to find the right moment for
Yeah,
it.
so it's not like, I don't know if it started out with someone was like, here's something stupid that somebody would know. I think if somebody was actually doing some legit research on whatever it is, the origin of some kind of species or some scientific something,
Yeah.
and they just wrote down a bunch of information about it, and maybe that person was... They gave that bit of information. Some guy's like, "Ooh, I need to keep that in the back of my head for whenever that comes up."
For that game show where I can win $100,000.
Yeah, and so I'm just thinking. I always think of it like 1800s or something, and then they're at this banquet, and the guy's like, camels have 16 humps, and they're like, where'd that come from? I don't know. Some guy told me, and then it just kind of
just
went down
pass it
from there.
along.
It's just and it's become useless information, but it started out as something probably really vital. I don't know.
Camels only have one or two.
It depends on the camel.
No, Alan, she said 16. Her word is factual.
Now we're getting into internet facts.
It's called, if the camel has pimples, it all counts as humps.
Oh my gosh.
What?
I don't
Camel
know.
pimples?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I found some fun facts, some useless knowledge. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. The first one, I'm actually going to ask Alan because
Okay.
you lived in California.
That's
so
true. I
In
did.
California, you can't legally buy a mousetrap without having what?
I bought mouse.
Silence.
I bought
I was going to say,
I want to guess, but
well, go ahead and guess.
cheese.
Okay, anyone else have any guesses?
I was gonna say a
like
mouse.
cheddar?
Yeah, like no, like you have to put something on the trap. You have to put something on the mouse trap.
See, even the word has different connotations.
You can't just buy an empty mouse trap. That's why something to go on
Okay,
it.
so the answer, which may or may not be true, Alan can maybe let me know.
I'm curious.
I found out that you can't buy a mousetrap without having a hunting license because this is a pretty recent law. I guess because you're still killing the mouse.
Because you're snaring it.
You're
I guess.
hunting for it.
Oh
And
It
my
says, it says you
gosh,
can't
that's
have.
Wow.
I
You
don't
know,
know if
I
that's
had-
true or not. It says it's a recent law.
One of the things that blew my mind, coming from Kansas and moving to California, it is, and I stand up for California a lot to people from Kansas that have never stepped foot in the state, but have a lot of things to say about California. But I was, to be able to fund our wedding, I lived with my in-laws for 9 months, and one day a possum came into the backyard, and my in-laws had 2 dogs, and I was like, well, let me just go dispatch this possum and be done with it. And they were like, no, don't kill the possum. I'm like, it's a possum. You just kill the possum. And they're like, no. And I was like, okay. So I, once it was plain dead, picked it up with a shovel and threw it in the toter and put a cinder block on it. I was like, now what do you want me to do with it? And they're like, well, let's call animal control. I'm like, okay. They called animal control. They told me that I could be fined for illegally ensnaring a natural, a natural
Living creature.
or whatever. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And I was like, well, what do you want to do with it? And they were like, well, here's the thing.
Let it go into the wilds of Los Angeles.
So the animal control person got out a cage and tipped over the toter, opened the door, and I said, are you going to put it in there? And they were like, well, it has to want to go in there. And I'm like, you are kidding me. And
Possums have more rights than people.
so
seems.
she let this possum go into the trap, and I said, now what are you going to do with it? And she said, I can only take it to the end of the
if the
block,
possum tells me to.
and then I have to let it out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Moral to the story is, the next day, driving home, dead possum in the street, same
Oh
possum.
my
I'm
gosh.
sure of it. I'm sure of
I
it.
knew this is where the story was going.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah. So in the end, I could have saved a lot of people a lot of trouble and taxpayer dollars if I would have just dispatched the possum. Moral of the story,
Don't live in California.
no, dispatch the possum.
Yeah,
okay.
okay, but had you gotten caught, you could have been fined or something, right?
That's true too. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay, here's another story. So some guy
There was a skunk, right?
Some guy took my philosophy and took out a bow and shot a possum. Problem is, and I'll dispense with the gory details, the possum lived, was found, reported. They wanted to track down the person that shot by identifying the arrow. And
They don't have better things to do out there.
and
guess
they
not.
put out a story. If you have any knowledge about somebody that uses this arrows, call this number.
There's
and I'm
an
like,
APB
are
out.
you kidding me? Are
he
you
get caught?
kidding me? I have no idea to the end of that story.
He's still at large, so be on the lookout.
Say, if
guys.
you're listening, let us know in the comments.
Here's my thing. If you're going to shoot a possum with an arrow, don't miss. I mean, do it the right way. You can't just have started archery and say, I want to shoot a living
If anyone
thing.
from California is
Know where the heart
listening,
is.
don't report us, please. We're not trying to get in trouble.
We're just humble Midwesterners
That's
who don't
true.
know anything.
Okay, so I have
Yeah, everything that I could have, all the facts I just gave, I could be completely wrong on all of it. I'm just going from what makes sense in my head.
Okay, I have another useless fact, and
Okay.
I found this one interesting considering last year, like I said before, we were in lockdown. So the average American does what 22 times a day?
22 times? The average American?
Any guesses?
Sit quietly and think about what they're supposed to be doing.
I was gonna say yawn.
Okay.
Oh, yawn. Yeah, I bet
No,
you yawn.
so it's opening the refrigerator. Most of the
Oh.
time, it's probably just to see if anything new has popped up since it was last opened. So
That's
you,
nice.
you
That
may not.
beats what I thought you were
I
going
was,
to say.
I was like, you mainly probably aren't eating something. It's just, oh, I'm bored. What's in the fridge?
fridge.
Like you just do it without thinking.
I've done that. I've complained that there's nothing to eat. And like I've opened the refrigerator, complained there's nothing to eat, walked away, turned around, walked back, and opened the refrigerator. It's
and
like,
it's like,
just to double check to make sure.
like, oh, those condiments look great.
But
Ketchup in your mouth.
it's less that, yeah, exactly. It's less that I'm waiting for something to appear, and more like, okay, nothing is in there that I think is edible, but can I make something
Or
edible
can you
out
lower
of
your
what's in there?
standards? Like, let me just lower my standards a bit and see where
I
I'm
think
going.
that's part of the
Exactly.
reason why a lot of newer fridges now have that screen where you can see inside
Yeah,
the
so
fridge.
you don't let all the cold
Oh,
out.
do the knocks? Oh, I want one so
So
bad.
instead of opening
Can't
it, you just sit
justify
there
a
and look like a zombie
$6,000
staring at it.
fridge.
Yeah. So you're spending more money to do something that you're just going to do anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so here's another useless knowledge fact. This I found very interesting. What is the national animal of Scotland?
Angus.
It'd be funny if it was a Scottish
The Loch Ness
Terrier.
Monster.
Oh, the Loch Ness Monster. I
No,
hope it
the
is.
national animal of Scotland is a unicorn. They symbolize strength and ability to remain unconquered.
The
Perfect.
state animal.
But like, that is ironic for Scotland, but we'll go. With that. I'm
was-
Scottish. I mean, I'm part of my. It's like a big part of my
See, I
heritage.
said
but-
Scottish Terrier when I was guessing that.
I
Yeah,
was like, that was too on the nose.
yeah, I was like that makes sense. No, it's the unicorn.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this one I found hilarious.
Why
so,
would they pick an animal that doesn't exist?
They didn't know it at the time.
You have to go back
Everybody
like thousands
knew
of years.
about the unicorn.
I mean, narwhals are real. Why wouldn't a unicorn be
Yeah,
real?
I mean, there was probably some like person that
horse
was
with a
running
pimple
around
like the
putting like
camel?
horns
Yeah.
on horses.
Yeah.
So people would see him and be like unicorns.
Well, you see like a skull with a horn on it or something like. There you go.
There you go.
I've heard that.
A horse skull?
Here's some
or a
useless
human
knowledge.
skull?
No, like a narwhal skull or something like that. That might have a horn on it.
Them
But
Scottish narwhal
But
skulls.
here's some useless knowledge. The
Okay.
reason that a lot of people thought that the Cyclops was real in Greece and in that sort of Mesopotamian area, an elephant's skull has like a single oculus, and
Right.
so it looks like a giant skull, but with like a one
eye,
eye, and so people thought it belongs
Wait,
to a
so
Cyclops.
makes sense.
what goes in there? Is that where their brain goes?
These are the nostrils.
Elephant?
Oh,
Come on.
I was
Just slide the brain right in.
I was imagining something totally different. I had a different design in my head. Okay. I've never seen an elephant skull, okay?
Ironic that this whole season is going to be educational. We're proving our worth right now.
I have a story about useless
elephant
knowledge.
skull?
No,
Okay.
useless knowledge that works. And my daughter has a great story about how her useless knowledge made her sort of the champion of the day. When she was in fourth grade, her teacher was asking if anybody knew how tall the tallest horse was. And she said, I don't know that, but I know its name. And she was like, come on. And she was like, yeah, it's Jack. And she was like, you're right. And everybody was like, whoa. And she had been reading in National Geo Kids about this story about the horse, and she remembered the name.
That's
so
awesome.
in that sense,
So how tall was the
useless
horse, though?
information work. Oh, I don't know.
Alan!
That would be useful information. We're only talking about useful.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, get it right, Jared.
40 hands.
Okay, next time I'm over, I'm going to ask your girls. I want to know the answer to this. Okay, this one I found very funny. So, Washington police officers get a half-hour class on how to do what?
Rescue cat off of a tree.
Oh, that's a good
That's
one.
a good answer.
good
It's
answer.
wrong, but that's a very good answer.
I don't know how to perform a traffic stop.
Nope, that would make sense. No.
Oh, okay.
So Washington police officers get a half-hour class on how to sit down. So this is really
With
funny.
like all their equipment on their belt and stuff.
Well, it just says it's hilarious because the reason behind it goes back to a few incidents in 1999 where some employees fell from their chair and one officer was injured. So I guess it's one of those things like one person messed it up for everybody. That's why we can't have nice things. So now they have to learn how to sit down.
It
So
just makes me think of that early Family Guy where he's like, it's like that one time I forgot how to sit down. And he's like staring at a chair and he just like dives into it and like knocks it over.
probably what happened. I don't know.
Inspired by true events.
I said, I don't know anyone from Washington, but I kind of want to call the police department up there. But like, did you actually have a class on how to sit down?
Like, forget CPR,
That's
self-defense. You see these chairs? All right,
That's
sit.
what during the county. That's what Sedgwick County needs to include in the police academy training video. How to sit. You will learn how to sit properly.
Careful, there'll be a next video for executive session. It'll be 10 minutes long.
That's right.
I wonder if it's a rolly chair though, because I have sat down in a rolly chair and it rolled behind me, and I went straight to the floor. So that's actually possible to sit and to not. I don't know how you injure someone. Maybe the chair rolled and like knocked another cop over.
There you go.
I don't know.
The chairs are more menace to society than the people are. Beware of chairs on casters.
It does sound very Looney Tunes, where like one thing affects a whole other series of events. I don't know how
if you give a
injure
cop a
person.
chair versus give a mouse
Well,
a
we're
cookie.
thinking about it practically. It could just be a goofball cop that was just going wee through the apartment and bumping into stuff.
And because of that, since 1999, those police officers in Washington now have to have a class on how to sit in a chair.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so the last one I have before we end out here, I found this interesting
There goes
because
Clarence.
That does sound like something Clarence would do.
No, the last one I had was a Dr. Seuss one because I love Dr. Seuss. So, how many different words are there in green eggs and ham?
Ooh, I don't know.
Said Sam, I am. How many words?
How many different
It
words?
says how many different words are in green eggs and ham?
Let's see.
672.
No,
wow.
different.
Different.
So like, it doesn't count repeats.
Yeah. Well, how many people does he meet? He meets like Fox.
Fox in the box and a.
I'm gonna guess 40.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 22.
You have one. Sarah had 600. You want to bring it down
You
just
want
a
to
little
revise
bit?
that
Oh,
estimate,
okay.
or is it closest without going over?
I'll say
I bid
$1. Yeah,
I'll say 36.
Closest without going over.
okay, the answer is 50. So
Wow.
Dan was
closest.
close.
All right,
So,
you get the showcase.
yeah, Seuss's editor bet him that after The Cat in the Hat, which used 225 words, that he couldn't write a book using fewer words. So it seemed like it was like a bet. It's like, oh, watch this. I'm going to write a book and,
Yeah.
and win whatever bet.
It just sounds like somebody who's bored. It's just like, I've written so many books. Like, give me a challenge. It's like 50 words. Done.
You're on.
Or it was in World War II, and he was like under fire, and he was like, "I got to get this one out."
Yeah, that's right.
I'm on a deadline.
Could you with a gun? Would you with a gun? And thus that story was born.
Well, I find that interesting too because Dr. Seuss has usually a bunch of made up words. So
Yeah, Zuzither Kaze is still going to be my favorite.
Oh yeah,
from the Grinch.
cartoon.
Does Green Eggs and Ham have a lot of the made up words, or is that one? Does that one have a lot more?
That one actually has more
No,
practicality.
that
Yeah.
one's just a rhyming, like a repetitive rhyme or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically a give it a try
Yeah.
moral.
We did Green Eggs and Ham Day in second grade. I think.
we did that in. Oh gosh.
It's still popular. It still happens.
Did it?
Does
Okay,
it?
I didn't
Yeah.
know if elementary schools still did that type
Well,
of
there's
stuff.
still a Dr. Seuss Day
Yeah.
that gets celebrated.
All I know is that I'm sure the food tasted normal, but the color green is such a turn off color.
Well, that's the
Because-
whole point of the story is
Yeah.
that, oh, I
Just
don't want to
give it
eat
a try,
this. It's
Yeah,
weird.
but see, cartoon green eggs and then real life green eggs, because that just looks like mold. It looks like mold.
Well,
you
they
know?
always gave us green scrambled eggs, but in the book it's fried eggs,
fried
and then the
eggs.
yolk is green.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
I don't know. Green scrambled eggs does look kind of strange because they start off yellow anyway, and then when you add the green dye, it's got like a weird gray color to it. So it's more like gray eggs and ham.
Well, if I remember correctly, I thought it was fried eggs, and they drip green food color on top of the yellow yolk, which looks really weird.
Okay, no, they gave us scrambled fried eggs for like what 50 students in elementary. I don't think they were going to fry that many eggs.
And seeing
Sounds like a lot of work.
and seeing ham that
Sounds
was
like a
green.
cool hand Luke.
What we got here is a failure.
Not only 50 eggs, green eggs.
I don't know how they got the ham green though. That I never found that out, and that is
Probably the same
sketch.
thing.
Yeah.
We left the ham out for 2 weeks before
That's probably what made Dan a vegan, right?
Exactly right.
that green eggs and
That's the
ham
origin
day.
story.
He's like, nope, I can't do this anymore.
Well, that's all I had for useless knowledge, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We will get into more educational topics, but I hope you learned something today. But I'm going to throw it to Sarah to give you some knowledge that is not useless.
Thank you, Charity. So if you want to check out all of our newest episodes, we're available on all the different podcast platforms. All of our archived episodes is on our website at doublestuffpod.com. Listen and check us out on the social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram at Double Stuff Podcast, and on Twitter at Double Stuff P, and that's the letter P.
Whee! Clarence!
Sit down, Clarence.